Welcome, everyone, to another Silicon Labs product podcast. In this episode, we're going to step back from our normal discussion about our traditional SoC and software products. And instead, we're going to spend some time helping you understand how important the developer experience is to Silicon Labs. In prior podcasts, we had Tiago Monti and Bob Power introduce a few aspects of the developer experience, or what some people will refer to as DX. But today, we have the primary person at Silicon Labs who's responsible for managing all the projects that focus on improving the DX for Silicon Labs, Michael Norman. Michael, thanks for joining us on this episode.
Hey, Kyle, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Sure. And are you ready to answer a few questions to help our listeners get a better understanding for all things DX at Silicon Labs?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay. Well, to start off, why don't you explain to the listeners what exactly DX means to you and to Silicon Labs?
Yeah, it's a good question. When we talk about DX, we mean developer experience, and that's really a play on general user experience, where developing a product and product management care very much about the UX and how their products are used and all the various touch points that their customers have with the product. For us, we're making IoT devices, and our customers have developers that have to take those devices and integrate them and develop their products and innovate on top of it. And so we provide lots of tools that enable them to do their job. And we, of course, want them to have a great experience with it and for it to be fairly seamless and do what we can to increase their success, increase their time to market, and make them happy using Silicon Labs products. So that's what we mean when we're talking about developer experience or DX. It's all the touch points they have with Silicon Labs as they are developing products.
Okay, so as you said, your job is to keep all these customers' engineers happy when they're working with Silicon Labs.
That's right.
All right. Well, why don't you start with the number one experience that I know almost every engineer that works with Silicon Labs interacts with, and that's Simplicity Studio. What's been the major area of focus to improve this extremely important development tool for our silicon and software?
Yeah, good question. When we started looking at Simplicity Studio and the trouble that our customers were having with that, it became very obvious that we needed to take a look at how the getting started experience was. We have a lot of customers coming to Simplicity Studio for the first time, and we wanted to make sure that that was a very good experience, that they could get up to speed and get productive very quickly. So we focused a lot on what we call the launcher within Simplicity Studio, which has some context awareness. You can plug in a kit or tell it a device that you're targeting, and it brings in a lot of resources that are really relevant to that specific device and kind of removes a lot of the clutter and really shows you the path to get started, putting documents and example projects and things right at your fingertips from the beginning.
Yeah, I know that's been a huge, huge undertaking, just working on something that's like the cornerstone for every engineer that works with Silicon Labs. And I've seen the improvements. You know that I work a lot with customer workshops, and over the last year, we've incorporated the new improved Simplicity Studio and the reduction of the number of issues that people have had getting started. I'll tell you, Michael, that it's reduced dramatically, and so it's really impressive. So nice job to you and the team.
Thank you.
Sure. Well, now let's dive a little deeper into something a little bit more detailed or complex as far as the DX goes. Simplicity Studio has been very popular because of all the tools that have been integrated from acquisitions like Ember and Energy Micro. And these tools, like I said, have been very popular, but they were introduced 10 years ago. So what has Silicon Labs done recently, leveraging the adoption of these popular tools to improve them for the people that are adopting them now?
Yeah, good point, Kyle. We've had some really good tools that we've acquired through, Ember and Energy Micro and through some of the other companies that are now part of Silicon Labs. And, those were focused on the specific solutions that those companies were driving toward. And really, we're taking a step back and trying to create a holistic approach across all of Silicon Labs wireless technologies now. So the tools like App Builder from Ember Studio and Hardware Configurator from the Energy Micro days, we've now taken and are using broadly across our SDKs to help customers manage software components using configuration tools to pull in software and to help configure that software in Simplicity Studio 5.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people liked App Builder, And this new software component tool is extremely useful. And we've used it in our workshops. And the feedback from the customers is they really like it. They like being able to quickly add components. It gets all of the software required into the automatically generated files. So that's extremely useful. But I don't think, why don't you explain to people? I don't think they realize what layer of software underneath these plugins is being incorporated. And how does this new tool help make it easier for people to add the components?
Yeah, it's a good point. So what we did essentially is across our embedded software SDKs, mainly C-based SDKs, we have created components out of the common pieces of software. So at the platform level, these are like the low-level drivers and the utilities, and then all the way up into the wireless stacks. The Bluetooth stack is a great example where we encapsulate the Bluetooth stack as a component, and then the various optional services on top of that. And within these components, there's some dependencies that are specified. So if a component requires another component, if a user in Simplicity Studio 5 adds that component into their embedded project, the configuration tools are going to automatically copy that component out of the SDK into their project, and any dependent components that need to come along with that component to make sure that it works. And so what it does is it removes the need for our customers to be intimately familiar with how our SDK is architected and where the dependencies are. They can search through a list of software components for features, pull those in, and let the system manage and all the dependencies and pull in the right things. And then they don't have to copy files from their SDK into the IDE and make sure that everything's set up properly.
Yeah, I think that's the number one improvement that I've seen is just in V4 or in our prior Simplicity Studio, when people were either migrating projects or trying to copy a peripheral function from one project to another. I mean, all of the EM-lib or the driver software, they'd have to know it pretty well, to your point, know the dependencies between them all. So as you mentioned, having a button where you can say, add this, and then the software say, oh, you also need to add X and Y is extremely, as you said, an improvement for the DX and the user experience. So that's been real helpful.
Yeah, I agree, Kyle. Thanks.
All right. Well, Michael, this has been great. I know the DX at Silicon Labs have seen huge improvements over the last year. So again, one more time, kudos to you and the team. We're almost out of time. We like to keep these podcasts to the 10, 15 minutes. But do you have any suggestions for our listeners? If they want to see some of these improvements that you've made in the DX, what would you suggest as far as getting somebody started seeing some of these new DX improvements?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, go to scilabs.com/simplicity and download Simplicity Studio 5. It's a completely free tool, and you can install it and download our SDKs using Simplicity Studio, and you can evaluate it without any hardware. You can just type in any part number or developer kit and check out the experience. Of course, if you want to take it one step further, we have some great, very low-cost kits out there. The BGM 220 Explorer kit is one of our most recent, and it comes in at a price point of around $9. So grab one of those things, plug it in, and really start building some Bluetooth applications. And kick the tires. I think a lot of developers out there who are new to Bluetooth will be happy with how quickly they're able to get up and running with something like that.
Oh, I know they will be. Like I said, you guys have done a great job improving that experience. So again, thanks, Michael. That's great advice on Simplicity Studio. I'm going to put that into the podcast details. So the listeners, you guys can quickly access it and go. And as Michael said, download Simplicity Studio, give it a run. And if you like what you see, then get started with some of the kits. So I know there's more things that we can discuss, Michael. I think you hinted at some new DX improvements coming soon.
That's right. Yeah, we have a lot of things in the oven, so to speak.
All right. Well, why don't you come back when you're fully cooked, and we can cover some of these new surprises after they've been released for the customers.
Absolutely, I'd love to.
All right. Well, thanks for your time, Michael. I always like to thank our listeners. Thanks for taking the time to download and learn more about Silicon Labs. Until next time, everyone, stay safe.